serenity is guaranteed with the instruction from Mr. Paul Atanga Nji that in the second semester of governors gathering in Yaoundé, he actually, first of all, congratulated 3 ministers. First, the minister of West Region, the governor of West Region, the governor of East, and equally the governor of, if I'm not mistaken, the governor of Center. Those are the 3 governors that were congratulated as far as the second semester was concerned. And I want to start with you, Mr. Eswa. You definitely have come across this news. In the contents, how do you appreciate the run out of this meeting?
Well, it's a normal routine meeting, which always happens. You know, we are just 1 month, 2 weeks to the end of 2020.
Yes.
The most terrible year which has ever existed.
You say so?
In my opinion.
Okay.
I read somewhere somebody said the year was constructed by an electrician where each month shocks people. so I totally succumb and agree to what that person said.
Okay.
You see, on the 1st of January 2021, most persons will be celebrating the fact that they escaped 2020.
Just that this, at the early hours of this year, people were congratulating 2020 for 20 on 20. And you are starting now to actually be 20 on 20 of challenges like no one have seen before.
Yeah. You see, let me come back to what you asked. The Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanga Nji, Gra Atangu, you know, we know him as a very formidable man. We know him as a very formidable man. I don't. When I say
please
we,
always caricature it to your party
we
and
know him as a formidable
yes,
man.
please.
I mean, just being a Minister of Territorial Administration, it means he's the one commanding the nation, the entire territory of Cameroon. So, calling the governors for a meeting or to a meeting is something which is normal. The second time he's calling them in the year, because we are approaching the end of year, and you know there are a lot of challenges this country is going through. I can quite remember he cited political tension in the northwest and southwest. He cited the Boko Haram in the far north. He cited insecurity in the east. You know, so all these things are things which were just normal for him to bring to the fore, to draw the attention of the regional bosses who are otherwise referred to as the governors, to be very, very alert. Of course, the governors are aware. So the meeting he held in Yaoundé was just to remind them and probably give them further instruction on what to do. Now, this December will be a different December as compared to the others because we'll have regional elections for the first time in the country. So it's another challenge altogether. So the governors were just normally to meet there, to receive firm instructions, as he will always say from the head of state, for implementation in their various regions, because this time around we'll not just be talking about the end of year festivities, we'll also have the elections, and of course, particularly to the governors of the southwest and northwest region, I'm talking about Adolf Lile Lafrique of the northwest and Okala Bila of the southwest. They have a major challenge. You know, about 3 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago, the crisis had relatively died down. According to you? According to me, as far as I'm concerned, the tension was somehow down, but this Kumba incident came and sparked off things again. So I mean, you understand what I mean by the crisis relatively died down. There was relative
I cannot guarantee to you
but
that
now,
I'm understanding.
when this Kumba issue came again, it just ignited everything, and he has instilled a lot of fear, coupled with the incident which happened at Kulu Memorial in Limbe, I think 2 weeks ago, where some separatist fighters stormed the school and asked students to leave. We could see students running out naked.
Undressed parents and children.
Which is a terrible situation.
And gave them a rush march naked in the school campus.
And which is some of the things we should decry publicly. We should not only be talking about the fact that the government is bad, We could hear the separatist fighters talking clearly, taking responsibility of the act. So the question I'm asking is, what are the crimes of those innocent students in school? Whereas we cannot be fighting for change without education.
That is talk for another day. Let's stay with the MINAT boss instruction. I want to put again to you, was it normal for him each time to make a statement to say on high instructions?
It's just but normal. There is what to call respect for hierarchy. He is he was appointed by somebody. He works under somebody. He does not work for himself. He works under somebody. He gets instruction from somebody. So, just like we are here at CMTV, although I disagree to that to an extent, there are times that he's supposed to take the bull by the horn and chair his things by himself. I personally am not a fan of his. When he always says from high instruction of the president, it means he's indirectly telling us that he cannot take his personal initiatives.
After you, Mr. Eswa, does it not put to task the kind of instruction he is given to the governor if at each point in time he must mention that this is coming from the head of state?
I think that the biggest problem we have in Cameroon is incompetence.
Okay.
And if you are appointed when you're competent, you do your job without mentioning somebody who appointed you. In the advanced democracies, in nations that do advance, you rarely hear somebody say on high instructions of the head of state. It doesn't mean that you are undermining the authority of the head of state. You recognize that the head of state appointed you, but the head of state did not appoint you for you to work for him, the head of state. The head of state appointed you to help him accomplish his mission as the head of state of Cameroon on behalf of the Cameroon people. It means your real boss is not the head of state, but the Cameroonian people. And so at the end of the day, who you should be paying allegiance to is the Cameroonian people and not the head of state. But unfortunately, we are in Cameroon where you see ministers who don't know that Kumba is a meme. Or you see ministers who talk about how they're going to bury the bereaved. I don't know if the bereaved have been buried. These are the ministers that we have in Cameroon. It clearly demonstrates at what level the competency is. And so for me to maintain my job, I definitely need to be citing somebody who appointed me. Because if it is paying allegiance to the people of Cameroon, it is an embarrassment for the people of Cameroon to have a minister of territorial administration who doesn't master his territory.
The responsibility.
Yeah, who doesn't? I'm talking based on facts.
I just wish to highlight something there. There is something I want us to understand here.
I'm the one who has the floor. I will come to you, Mr. Eswa.
He's trying to pick.
No, I will come to you, Mr. Eswa. I promise I will come back to you. Go on. I say he takes responsibility for his statements.
Except you people are trying to say that the statements that came from the Minister of Territorial Administration are not true.
They are true, but I just simply said that. He made the statements. But I'm simply saying that acknowledge the fact that it could be an error, which is of course one of the aspects of humanity.
Allow Mr. Ake to continue, Mr. Eswa, please.
I don't think that's the first time the Minister of Territorial Administration is making such a grievous mistake. And if we need to be serious in this country, a Minister of Territorial Administration is somebody who is supposed to master communication, is supposed to be a diplomat in the way you communicate, because it's all about management of the state. The security of the state is in your hands, and you know how to manage it, including how you communicate. I just heard you talk about the fact that government did not communicate well from the beginning of the crisis. I beg to disagree with you. Government communicated, but there is something in communication they call effective communication. When you don't communicate effectively, it leads to chaos. And that is the reason why we are here today. Because at the beginning, there was there was communication, but the communication was ineffective. And when there's ineffective communication, there is bound to be chaos. And so we cannot afford to, at this particular moment in our country, where the country needs a lot of serene hands, where the country needs a lot of seriousness to bring back the particles of the country that have been dispatched together, we have a minister making such erroneous statements. It demonstrates to you how there is lack of understanding of the terrain by the minister. And so if I were the minister, I would shift behind and give place to another person who is more competent to take over the management of the Ministry of Territorial Administration.
Mr. Ate, I want to ask about the centralization of power at a time we are talking of decentralization and even regionalization.
Yes.
Coming forth with the slogan of instruction from the head of state, does it not further confirm the grief the government has placed on the centralization of the system?
Exactly. We're talking at the moment where the Anglophone crisis is at the center of the crux of the matter in the Anglophone crisis is about centralization, the form of the state. And we've seen what they call the Major National Dialogue. I call it CBDM CBDM conference on it's a CBDM conference on decentralization. That's what the so-called Major National Dialogue was.
No, those are some people from SDF came.
Well, when you have the SDF convention, when you have the SDF convention, you eventually have people from the CBDM who come there, and then you have people from the civil society. That's what is eventually what happened. The CBDM has its conference on decentralization, and they had some few people from the civil society and the opposition to come there and tell us that that's a national dialogue.
A national allow you say that major national dialogue.
What do you want them to say? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They caricature it as a major national dialogue. But to me, a dialogue is you talk to your enemy. Who is the enemy of Cameroon today?
We saw fraction from the diaspora, social media leaders that came. Even in Cameroon, Cardinal Tumini, John Fundi, that have proponents for federalism were there.
Well, the enemy of Cameroon today is not the federalists. We have to be very
But in the early hour of this crisis, federalists were caught and jailed. Do you admit that there has been progress in the level of the dialogue?
Yeah, but at this time, the dynamics of the conflict have changed. The federalists no longer control the ground. Those people who are holding guns in the bushes and they're shouting independence or resistance forever were not present in the national dialogue. These are the people, the
same people you are quoting, some 500 of them were recently announced by Fayengo Francis to have dropped arms, ex-fighters, and are now following their transformation in the digital centers.
Has there been peace now since they dropped their weapons? How many of them are still fighting? You're talking about 500. How many of them are still fighting? These are the people we need. These are the people we need to talk to. Besides, we don't just need to talk to these fighters because they have their leaders. They have a political wing and they have a military wing.
What are the leaders of these fighters?
We have their leaders in jail. They are in jail in Yaoundé. We caught them and jailed them in Yaoundé.
Did you vote there?
These are the people.
Did you vote there?
I think Mr. Esther, I'm coming back to you.
I'm not talking
you
about.
You can jot down the point. I will come back to you and you point.
I'm not talking about the leader. I'm not talking about the leaders of the Cameroonian people. I'm talking about the leaders of the rebels who have declared themselves leaders of the rebellious group, self-proclaimed leaders of the rebellious group, and they've been caught in jail because of that. That's the reason why they're in jail, because they are leaders of this rebellious group. And now, if we need to talk, if we need to frankly talk, these are the people we need to talk to, because these are the people who proclaim to be the leaders of those holding the guns. And so in a country when we want peace, when national dialogue is supposed to take place, these are the people you need to talk to, because in a dialogue you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. And the enemy of Cameroon today are those people holding the guns in the bushes and shouting independence or resistance forever. Those are the people the Cameroon government needs to talk to so that we can have peace.
After you, Mr. Ate, Mr. Eshua, we are some 24 or 48 hours to the launch, the campaign of the regional election. Do you see the instruction of the MINAT boss, Mr. Atanga Nji, going effective on the field?
Now, before I come there, you depriving me from reacting to what my...
Please, you have the right to do so.
Now, what I was going to say is that when we start talking about the leaders, I get a bit worried.
Okay.
When this crisis started in 2016, I'm sure Agbobala and Fontaine Neba were the leaders we knew.
Okay.
Nobody would deny that.
Did you elect them?
No, because we are talking of the fact that those were the first leaders everybody recognized.
No, they created a consortium. They were leader of the consortium, please.
And some persons recognized them.
Right? Please, if you recognize them, just say that I recognize them.
And we said,
please, Mr.
And at the same time, they said, for any dialogue to happen, they must be released. They were released. Later on,
you are talking about the same group of people that are very
so what I'm saying is that
regime.
Which people?
No, I mean the people who
you are
said that they release them. No, please, excuse me.
Listen,
you are talking about yourself.
If we come here to joke, tell us we have come here to
joke.
No,
sir, I'm not trying to tell you that
we have come here to joke. You cannot tell me that somebody is in prison as my leader. Because if you are talking about those who are in prison who are leaders, you are talking about
That's why I told him that he should self-proclaim and he claim it.
So he is talking about people like
he
is talking about somebody like Ayok Sisigutabe.
Yes.
Remember, I have a lot of others out there in the diaspora. So there is total disagreement. Okay. If you ask who is the leader of whatsoever now, there is nobody who can stand up. Because if you bring somebody, I will tell you as a Southern Cameroonian that I don't recognize him. I did not vote for him anywhere.
Right.
So you cannot stand somewhere enjoying yourself in Europe and tell me that you are the leader of the so-called world struggle. Okay. Now, he is saying that those in the bushes are the persons the government should talk to. How does the government talk to the person? To go to the bush and meet them? When the government launched, talked of the major national dialogue, it opened the floor for persons to come.
But Natumi, in his recent outing, suggested to Mr. Biapo to grant clemency to the separatist leaders in prison. Is it not joining what Mr. Ate Solomon is trying to pick points on this platform?
I'm not in favor of the fact that people are jailed.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of that because it will not solve the issue. But at the same time, take note that it's not the first time that Bia has released people from jail.
Mostly for misdemeanors.
I don't care whether it's misdemeanor or whatsoever. It's not the first time that Mr. Bia has released people from jail. See, if you take a little history of this country, right, you realize that if you go back to the 1984 coup d'etat, these are some of the things which happened. The fact that the president keeps releasing...
Some people think it was a simulated coup d'etat. It has never really been effective.
The fact that people are always pardoned. Of course, yes, the Constitution makes provision for that. I think Section 91 of the Constitution or the Penal Code of Cameroon makes provision for that. Gives the president, the head of state, the right to do that.
Let's ride forward, Mr. Eshwa.
Yes.
Let's ride forward to talk about the effectiveness of the campaign. Is in 48 hours. In 48 hours, we expect the regional election campaign to start, where the regional candidate will go around canvassing, especially in the different councils, because it is a grand electorate that will vote them. How do you foresee the instruction of the MINAT boss, Mr. Atanga Nji, to go operational on the field?
Of course, if campaigns went on in 2018 presidential elections, they should of course go on in 2020. Now, it depends on the individual political parties.
This same year, we saw election and the campaign was morose according to tendency, and the number of people who actually cast their vote for the local election, talking of municipal and legislative election, were amounted, some total, less than 23% actually participated in the vote, and in the northwest and the southwest, less than 2% according to official statistics. Is it the same environment you forecast for the regional election, or you think something have changed over time?
No, I think there is a little improvement as compared to the February 8th municipal legislative elections. Okay. You see, a political party was supposed to go in for that elections.
Okay. We are talking about the instruction of...
of course. Okay. I don't know why you always like cutting me short. But along the line, that same political party boycotted. Okay. And I met one of its candidates at the DIO's office, certifying documents to run. But 2 weeks later, they decided not to go in for that elections again. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
Is it the regional election you're talking about?
So I know exactly what I'm saying.
This statement I cannot be proven.
No, you see,
are we talking about the regional elections?
The regional election. Now, let's come back to 2020.
Oh, you were in your...
We bounced back in 2020, and I'll say it again, that election is a civil right, but not a civil obligation. Okay. It's a civic right, but not an obligation. You have the right to vote, but you must not vote.
It's not a direct consultation. No, I understand that this is meant only for grand electorate. No, the question I'm asking you, Mr. Eshwa, is would the instruction of the MINAT boss, like he prescribed serenity during this election, do you foresee that there will be peace during this campaign and even during the election period?
It's clear. In the northwest and southwest, we cannot assure 100% peace.
Then why force to have an election in a war environment?
No, you see, in 2018, elections held.
In the northwest and the southwest?
Yes.
We had elections, yes. Effective elections?
Whether it was effective or not, elections held. You understand? Are you telling me that on the 7th of October 2018, nobody voted in Boya?
Report holds that mostly were men in uniform.
No, I voted. I'm not a military person. So we should
but the percentage was very reduced.
Mr. Cyril.
I'll be coming to you,
whether one person voted, the elections, you will not say there was no election. You should use the term timid. Because when we come on air and say that there was no election in the Northwest and Southwest, please, we are misleading the public. Out of 1,000 persons, if one person votes, you will not tell me that elections did not hold. You will tell me that it was timid. If a school has a population of 1,000 students, and you go there the next morning, you meet 2 students, you will not tell me that classes will not hold. Classes will hold, but the report should be that the classes were timid.
All right.
Just like we say now, some people still tell you that schools are not ongoing in the Northwest and Southwest region. I don't know whether you also accept to
No,
that.
let's stay within the election.
No, I just gave another opinion.
Okay, after you, Mr. Esra, I saw you nodding your head. In China, when you make like this, it means you are accepting with the opponent. I don't know, that is what you meant.
It's catastrophic.
Okay.
Catastrophic that we sit in this panel and mislead our viewers.
Please tell us more.
Yeah, Mr. Espa is telling me that if in the Northwest and Southwest region, 1% voted, it means elections took place. That is misleading.
Well, the law does not make any specification as far as participation is concerned.
We are here talking about the law. I always say there's a difference between legality and legitimacy.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you may have the legal status as the leader of the people, but you will not have the legitimate status as the leader of the people.
Are you saying that the head of CMTV?
I'm not saying that. I didn't say
say
that. I'm analyzing what Mr. Iswa is saying.
Okay.
Because he said that at the end of the day, if he is 1% out of 1,000 people who voted, it means the election has taken place. And that means that if you cannot tell me that in a society of 1,000 people, 1 person has voted, and then you call yourself the leader of the people. Hello, let's be serious. There is legality in your action as the president, as the leader, but there is no legitimacy because 999 people in that community don't recognize you as the leader because they didn't vote you. And this is what Mr. Iswa is trying to make. I'm not saying what I think. I'm trying to say what Mr. Iswa is telling us on this platform.
Now let's come back to
I'm trying to respond to.
Mr. Esra, it's okay. I will take care of him. I'll be back to you, Mr. Esra. I'll be back to you. Mr. Ate, you can write on.
I don't know why he keeps on coming back to this issue that we've tried.
Just write on, Mr.
I first of all cleared my mind by saying that those are leaders of the rebellious group. I didn't say they're leaders of Cameroon.
Let's come back
now,
to the feasibility of the campaign running in the Northwest and the Southwest and hitherto having an effective election.
It's a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a joke. Remember what happened in Seoul the last time with the fun of Seoul and Cardinal Tumi. These are people who ran out of their places. This was the fun of Seoul. You know what the fun of Seoul represents. You know the charisma he carries. You know what he reflects in the Seoul community. He ran out of this community because of insecurity, and then when we projected regional elections, we saw him as a strategic partner towards the realization of the regional elections in Seoul. But what happened? As soon as he stepped his legs in Seoul, he was picked up.
Are you supporting those who...
Allow me to go through. He was picked up. What is the significance of that? There is insecurity in the land. My debate is not to say whether these people are right or wrong. Okay. My debate is trying to pinpoint the nature of insecurity that we are heading towards regional elections, and thinking that it is possible. When these fighters picked the fun of Seoul and Cardinal Tumi, the points that they were raising, in those their points, we had regional elections, which they cautioned the fun of Seoul not to take part in the regional elections. What does that mean? It means that these people who have the capacity to pick up the fun of Seoul as soon as he's landing in Seoul lands, to pick up a personality like Cardinal Tumi, it's an insult to the security of this nation first.
They were roaming across their roads and passed through their checkpoints, and that is where they were simple sheep for interrogation.
Let me learn. Whether they were sheep for interrogation or we were sheep for questioning or whatever, the issue remains that they were picked up in the Republic of Cameroon. In the Republic of Cameroon that wants to organize regional elections. And for you to organize regional elections, there need to be peace and stability for everybody to go out and vote freely.
It's not a direct consultation.
He said
the grand electorate that will vote, including traditional rulers.
And so are the traditional rulers in Seoul going to vote?
Well,
are they going to vote in total serenity?
That is the question I'm posting to you.
That is what I'm trying to tell you, that this action in Seoul demonstrates that the ground is not fertile for regional elections in the northwest and southwest region. There is total insecurity. And we have been calling for a ceasefire in this nation for a long time.
Chief Ebako will happen equally to be a traditional ruler and head leads for, I think it's Kupe Manengumba, actually testified that he was in his locality and that all the chiefs are mobilized and will cast their vote that very day. This statement you are bringing about the northwest and the south, is it not peculiar to your line of analysis?
Well, politicians will always say what they want to say. It is their right to say what they want to say. And it is equally my duty to analyze whether what they're saying is true or not. Because politicians will always say, do you want him to tell you that it's not possible to organize elections? I didn't say my opinion.
Please allow
should
him
be the
to
best.
Mr.
When I was talking here, I didn't compel you to accept my opinion as the
Right,
best.
Mr.
I'm simply giving my opinion. It's left for you to see whether this is the best or not.
So you
Yes.
are saying that the field is not well-minded to have elections?
Any election in the northwest and southwest region is a joke. It is a violation of our right to vote because there is total insecurity. It is a violation of our right to choose our leaders in a peaceful and serene atmosphere. You just mentioned that right. That right goes with a peaceful and serene atmosphere. If the space is not conducive for us to go out and exercise our civic right, then you've taken away that right from us. So the government is taking that right from us. Since the presidential election, passing through legislative and council election, the government has been abusing that right for us by not creating safe spaces for us to go out and exercise our civic right.
That's not okay. Mr. Enshaw, before you come in powerfully to respond to Mr. Ate, I want to put this. The Minister of Decentralization was equally in the meeting, and he equally prescribed what the law awaits from the central administration with its disarmament in the various local decentralized units, telling them, for example, that they need to accompany the electoral board, ELECAM, that is the national supervisor for this election, but equally emphasizing that they are supposed to make sure that all the candidates are prepared psychologically to sensitize them on the role they have to play so that the regional election should finally take place. Before now, the minister himself was in the southwest, was in the northwest to make sure that he installed the regional offices for his ministry in these two regions. Is this not preparation enough to guarantee the effectiveness of the regional election that is happening for the first time in the Republic of Cameroon?
You see, the Ministry of Decentralization was just created from 2 years ago. It's headed by Minister Jean Elanga Obam.
Yes.
He's just doing what he's supposed to do. That's why he was appointed. You see, whether the country is in turmoil or whatever, you not expect a minister, although deeply in him, right? Yeah. He might feel that things are not okay. But for protection and to save the image of the nation, you not expect him to come and fuel the crisis or the insecurity on air. It's a civic right to vote. It's a civic right to carry on our daily activities. My friend here seated, I admire the way he talks, Mr. Ati, right? According to him, the Northwest and Southwest are insecure for elections. Therefore,
he's not the only person having that point of argument.
No, for at least as of now.
Okay.
On this panel.
Okay.
According to him, the Northwest and Southwest are not secured for elections to hold.
Right.
Because of insecurity. But the Northwest and Southwest are secure for him to go about his daily activities. He has not taken insecurity into context.
We haven't talked about his activities here, Mr. Enshaw.
If the regions are insecure, deprives you of certain civic rights.
Right.
It means your own personal civil right should stop. He just complained here that he came late because he had other activities.
And you don't know whether it was online or you don't know whether he was doing that in his...
Security stopped him from carrying on his civil rights in going on with his day-to-day activities. Please, let's stop fooling people. Let's stop fooling people. Tell me that the elections, I will agree 100% on the media.
Okay.
Tell me that the elections, the security situations in the Northwest and Southwest does not make it so favorable for elections to take place conveniently. I'll agree.
How does that change what he's putting?
No, he is saying that it's a joke to come and organize election. It means that left to him, because it's true that we have insecurity problems in the north and southwest region. The whole world knows that. At the same time, there are parts in this region.
Shall we roll by parts?
No, where? At the same time, we have sections in this region, even in America, right? We're experiencing security, two of us.
True.
Before the elections, the presidential elections of America this November, there was insecurity in America, two of us. Elections held, also. So please, tell me that it will not be effective. Don't tell me that there is no reason for elections to hold. We should stop joking.
Is there a reason for us to organize ineffective election?
Because actually, when we go by what Mr. Ate is trying to put forward, is that the origin of our problem in the northwest and the southwest dwells with this rigmarole way of administration, where things are promised and they are not coming. Even the special status that was announced to the Anglophone was to give a certain particularity, especially to the House of Chief. And I'm putting it to you because Mr. Ate is trying to talk about effectiveness. Are you foreseeing that if this election holds in this condition, we are going to have the original House of Chief as so wanted by the people in the northwest and the south?
In other words, what you both.
Excuse me, I'm posting question here and you don't have to, classify us in the category, please.
No, I'm not classifying anybody. I'm not struggling to classify. What I'm saying
right
is that, in other words, there is a school of thought, or according to Mr. Ate, he is saying that elections should hold. In other words, he is saying that elections should hold in the 8 other regions. And then the northwest and south. Because you said, you did not say there is insecurity in Cameroon.
Just right on with the question.
There's insecurity in the northwest and southwest. So elections should hold in the 8 other regions.
You are the one saying so. He did not say so.
No, we have to read. We read comments.
Yes, you are reading and understanding like that. Go on.
That's not what I meant.
Anyway, he is reading and understanding, so it is your point of view.
Of course, and my point of view is made very clear.
Yes.
I still hold my position that, as far as I'm concerned,
yes,
I will not deceive people.
Yes.
If somebody comes and tells me that, Mr. Kizito, there is serenity in the northwest and southwest, I'll tell you it's a lie.
Okay.
I've said the whole world knows that.
No, not the whole world. You
have
a point to defend here. You have a point.
Pundits
closer to the Yaoundé administration still believe that effective election can take place in all the 13 divisions that holds the northwest and the southwest. And you are here saying that it's a joke. You are here telling us that it's a joke.
Let's be serious. There is no way we can say that there's a possibility for us to have effective elections in the northwest and southwest region.
Okay. So it's a joke.
It's not true.
It's a joke.
I don't want to use the word joke. Okay. Please don't force words on me.
Okay. I don't want to use the word joke. It's not true. We have got it.
It was not a joke.
Let's write up. If you look at GC 2020,
yes, sir.
There was no center in Libya-Lem.
Okay.
Understand? So it tells you that the whole of Libya-Lem is suffering from serious problem of insecurity. Okay. So just few months after the GCE and taking into cognizance the way events are unfolding, you will not tell me that there will be effective elections in Libya-Lem, and I agree with you. Okay. Now, even if you come to Fako division, which is to an extent, in quote, the peace heaven in Southwest,
okay,
we cannot still have effective elections 100%, even in Fako.
Why?
That is to tell you that we have security challenges. Because where Kulu Memorial is in the center of Limbe.
Okay.
If that school could be attacked in broad daylight, it tells you that we still have pockets of resistances, even in the urban areas where we think they are secure.
Okay.
So in essence and conclusion, I'm saying that even if elections take place in the southwest and northwest region, they will not be effective.
And that makes
so much. After you, Mr. Eswa, I want to ask you what of end of year's festivity? They are equally at the corner. Does the same challenges that apply to election equally apply to end of year festivities?
I think the end of year festivities are not political activities. Okay. I think that the sensitivity of insecurity here centers around political activities.
But we have had years here, especially in 2017 and 2018, when even end of year festivities were cancelled.
Yeah, I think that there's a gradual improvement in, as far as that is concerned, because these Amazonian fighters and their leaders are beginning to understand that there is no point holding people and the grounds of not celebrating their end of year festivity. You have your political grievances with the government. Settle that with the on political perspectives. You cannot hold us that we are having our end of year festivities, and then you are asking us to boycott that. It has no nexus with political activities. I saw that in the same with the International Labour Day, that they were asking us to boycott. I'm like, what has that got to do with it? Yeah, Women's Day, you may begin to think, because there is a connotation around Women's Day and the rapper that has to do with the regime. I don't want to go into details, but there are some details about that have to do with the regime, and then they believe that by buying the Women's Day rapper, you're empowering a certain group of people. I don't want to go into details. It's your regime, you know them better. So when it comes to the issues of end of year festivities, I think that we don't even need to go to excesses. I'm one of those people who believe that the end of year festivities are a period where we come together as families, we try to reflect on our lives and see how the next year is going to look like. And as Christians, we come together to commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ in a more Christian family manner. For those who are Christians, anyway. That if you want to talk about insecurity, it has very little, even though it has an effect on the festivities, but it really the effect on the end of year festivities is not as high as on political issues. We are talking about regional elections.
It becomes clear that the people are playing a double-sided role in the crisis, because one hand the elections has a high stake of insecurity, and the other hand the festivity is relatively low. So you, for example, you frequent the university milieu, and you have students that will definitely be traveling back to meet their parents in the village, and some of these nitty-gritty of the Anglophone, of the Northwest and the Southwest. Do you foresee that they will travel safely to their villages and come back during this festive period?
First and foremost, when the minister instructed the governors to keep an eye on security because it's end of year festivities, it has a little to do with the separatist fighters. Okay. Because even before the crisis started, during the end of year festivities, the Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization then had always instructed the governors to keep an eye on security towards end of year activities. Okay. So it's not because of the Amazonian fighters and so on and so forth. Okay. It could have a little, the security could only be stepped up as a result of that. Okay. It has always been something very, very usual. Okay. Because during end of year, there are a lot of festivities which are taking place. People get drunk, and there is a lot of delinquency around banditry. Okay. So that is the security we are talking about here. Okay. The target here is not the separatist fighters. Yeah. Okay. So I think the instruction from the minister as far as the separatist fighters is concerned is in relation to elections.
Is it isolated? Completely isolated?
I want to tack in more to elections, not end of year festivities.
But you as an analyst, you could broaden your spectrum.
That's why I said it has just heightened it a little. The crisis has just heightened the security consciousness a little. But it is not supposed to be tacked to the separatist fighters, because the normal thing is that we all know, because even before the crisis, we all know on the 26th early in the morning, if you go to hospitals, you always find cases of insecurity happen here and there. So it's on that score that the minister was cautioning the governors that keep an eye on security because it's end of year festivities. Let's not just start everything to the
politics,
or to politics.
Yeah. So does that guarantee the way back of our children to their villages to celebrate with their parents?
You see, even before the crisis again, there is something we always say: there is no zero risk. Okay. Life itself is a risk. So the highest person to provide your security is yourself. Okay. Any security that anybody gives to you is just supplementary. You are supposed to first of all provide yourself security. Okay. Because you will not tell me that you will not assure me that you know that before getting to Bamenda after Santa, for instance, as you approach Santa, you know very well that there will be exchange of gunshot between the both parties, and then the government says, no, I'll give you one military man who will take you to Bamenda, and you say, no, I'll go because they have given me security. You have to first of all reason as an individual that the zone is not.
We are talking of students, Mr. Ate, that do not really have choice Like, they need to go back. It's the same time when they go and bring their food items, they give them some money. Do you feel for them?
Well, I think that for the first time, I agree with my co-panelists here that we don't need to politicize everything. The insecurity around the festivity period is not all about the political crisis. It's not about the Ambazonian crisis. It's about the normal insecurity that applies to everywhere, even in the Francophone regions. As you rightly said, yeah, in the whole world. As you rightly said, if you go to the hospitals, even in Douala, most especially in Douala, where this festive period is really kind of celebrating a climax, you realize that early in the morning, people will be in the hospitals.
But
now,
we should not be short-sighted for the fact that the grooming ground of insecurity in the Northwest could give a room for bandits of highways to actually jump into it.
So just make it to you.
So it will exaggerate it. It will not look like as you are trying to paint it.
This time around, it will just compound the insecurity.
Okay.
Exactly. Even you realize it's not just during that festive period. Even right now that we are talking, there are some kidnappings that are taking place. If you look at them keenly, those perpetrators have nothing in connection with the political crisis. They are just using the political crisis to grab their own opportunities to carry out their banditry acts, and then they tag that on the political crisis. But if there is real investigation that goes on, you realize that there are a lot of things that are happening that have nothing to do with the political actors on the ground. It's the same thing during this festive period. To be very candid with you, I can't go to my village right now. Okay. Yeah, to be very candid with you, I can. If my mom called me and asked me to come to the village, and I said no, I wouldn't come because of the political crisis. Because I don't even know. Since I speak on media every day, I don't know who is my target. Yeah, and so it's difficult for me now to go to the village. And I've told them that until a certain period when the crisis will be calm, before you can see me in the village.
So feeling for others, you prefer start feeling for
yourself? I feel for myself. When I put myself in that situation, I put my I feel for these students who will be going. Anyway, most of them do not have the high risk because most of them don't go to the media to speak like some of us do. Because when we go, we speak, we condemn the military, we condemn the Amba on the atrocities, and the next thing is that they're writing our names on it. Because my name has been featured in the list of Amber blacklist for several times. That's why people don't know.
No
that's
publicity. You are not trying to throw some stuff on you.
No, well, it's not publicity. I'm trying to say how I've been victimized. Okay. I think I said that. Yeah, that's a fact. I think I've said that on this platform once, and I'm still saying it again. That even the Ambers do tag me as one of the blacklegs, even though they don't have proofs of that. So it makes it difficult for me to even go to my village freely, knowing that I'll go and come back. So as far as traveling to the village is concerned, I think that just like my brother Riley said, life is all about risk. There is risk in everything that we do in life, but most especially during this period, people really have to be very careful because there are people who want to have their Christmas party on others right now, and especially using the political crisis. They will want to seize that opportunity to commit acts of atrocities, and knowing that they will be labeled on the political actors on the ground. So it's going to be challenging within that perspective, but it's not going to be as challenging as within an electoral period because it's a political action that is taking place, and those people have a political connotation that they are contesting.
Some new awards given to governors, including our Foncam in the west, Nasri Paul Beya in the center, and their colleague in the east. We expected the governors of the Northwest and the Southwest to at least be appreciated for their stifling measures, especially for Bamenda with the Clean Bamenda operation, but yet.
Before coming to that, I wish to say that where we are in this crisis now, I'll say it openly, the politicians should look at me to my face.
No, their camera is somewhere there.
So they should look at me clearly and tell me that they don't have a hand in this crisis.
Well,
and I'll tell
look
them
at their
because
camera and be talking to them.
What is happening is I have that conviction that if it were just in the hands of the separatist fighters to decide, I have that conviction that will not be where we are today.
You are very close to politics.
So there are politicians in this country who do not want this thing to end.
Do you know some of them?
I've not called any name.
But it's very risky to be making those type of statements.
I've not called any name.
Can you identify some few?
I think that is very right. I think that, yeah, I think that.
Right? is it not a political issue?
Yes.
Obviously, there are people who don't want it
Yeah.
to end because they grow fat and
Yeah.
feed fat from it.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand? I don't want to call names.
Yeah.
Okay, you have some names.
I don't want to call names.
You have some
There are
names.
persons I've talked to, right? Just the way you talk to just the way the person responds to you. There are authorities that the way they even respond to you when you talk to them, you know clearly their stand that they don't want this thing to end. So I think it's high time that the government started investigating some of its own members.
Yeah.
And the politicians of this country.
But the economy of war, Mr. Ate, is known in every country to be a very lucrative market. And talking about the government to investigate, it seems as if they don't know about themselves. We were thinking at a time when if people see buildings being mounted in their neighborhood, they should just identify the owners and try to decry it either by press or even in their neighborhood assemblies.
My brother, it's not just, sorry for taking you again. It's not just the buildings. My brother, it's not just these buildings. You understand? Because now in the northwest and southwest, killing is not investigated. People use this to settle scores. Political infighting here and there. There are politicians in this country who support these guys financially. The way when you
You take that on yourself.
I take responsibility for what I say.
Okay.
Remember, I've not called anything, but I take responsibility for my words.
Okay.
My words are my bones. Okay. Some of us have fought for peace in this country since 2016. I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah.
There are people you meet face to face, you talk to them, go to them with proposals that they could even table to some authorities for measures to be taken to bring down tension or pressure. Immediately you leave their office, they promise you, but nothing happens. The way they even respond to you, you live with the belief that they have a hand in it.
Okay.
And it will be very, very difficult for us to end this thing. Secondly, there are a group of persons in the bush there who are not Ambazonians, who are just normal thieves, in quote. So they have used this now as an opportunity to have arms and carry out their atrocities without anything being investigated. So it will be very, very, very difficult to get those arms back from those persons. Just imagine you were a normal armed robber. Permit me use that hashtag.
We cannot be using that
right?
kind of example with the moderator. How can you say I was a normal armed robber?
I'm saying the public. Somebody in the public who was a normal armed robber. But now this forum has come for him to have arms. He goes, kidnaps somebody, gets ransom, and of course he knows that they will take it to an Ambazonian. Right? And even if he kills that person, no investigation will be opened.
After you, Mr. Esra, yes, I will come back to you with the next question because we don't have time. Cardinal Tumi recently came out in his first outing after his captivity from the Northwest, answering to a call from Radio France Internationale, RFI, calling on the head of state, Mr. Paul Biya, to grant amnesty to Anglophone leaders that are in detention and equally ask them to grant amnesty or general amnesty to all political prisoners. And with you, Mr.